This is GM Adventures by Barabin, a map for Gary's Mod. It is a reconstruction of the Adventurers Club from Walt Disney World, a nightclub themed off a private club for travelers and explorers set in the 1930s. It featured various animatronics, puppets, and actors who would perform and mingle with the patrons of the club, pretending the visitors were famous explorers. It closed down around 2009. I've never been to Disney World, let alone the Adventurers Club myself, but I find this map to be very interesting. From my research, it looks like a lot of people have fond memories of the club. This map's almost a digital archive of a real-life place. I also remember there was a bit of hype around it when it was released, being featured in a few news articles. I asked Barabin some questions about this map. They made it for multiple reasons. To test their 3D modelling skills, to make a place they could hang out with their friends, and finally, to allow players to explore a place that millions got to visit in real life. It took them about a year and a half to complete, from the beginning of 2009 to the end of summer 2010. They ended up making about 85% of the models themselves, and the rest were free models from sites like TurboSquid. On a little side note, while doing research, I found this article from Inside the Magic that says, "Try to ignore the obvious presence of an on-screen weapon." I mean, I know this website's probably for a younger audience, but I found it quite funny. Ooh, look out, there's a gun in the Adventurers Club in Gary's Mod. Barabin has also made this series of underwater-themed build maps for Gary's Mod. I was originally going to cover these maps, but chose to cover GM Adventurers after noticing they created it, and remembering playing it back in the day. Maybe I'll look at these maps some other time in more detail. Aside from these maps, they've also made a Moon-themed map and an R.I.P map they didn't get around to finishing. They still make maps, but these days in Unity instead of Source. So anyway, let's take a look at this map. We spawn outside of where the entrance of the building would have been. Around is a desert landscape, a pyramid, and an observatory. I definitely get some Mist vibes from the observatory. If you walk inside, it even plays the music from the game. Before I go in, I'll show the exterior of the building. As I mentioned, I've never been to Disney World, let alone the Adventurers Club, so if there's something I miss or don't explain in more detail than I should, I'm sorry. I didn't see any hidden Mickeys or anything while exploring and researching. So let's go in now. The interior of the building is highly detailed, with props based on photos and videos from the club. I quite like the flat textures on the walls. It's a clever trick to get around making models for every single item. I'm sure there's a die-hard Disney fan who could go into much deeper description for some of these items, but that's not my area. I found this empty space to be an interesting inclusion. When I asked Berabin about what it was for, they told me it was empty space left over when they were making the map. It was most likely a storage room or a place for actors to get changed. The kernel was controlled from this room as well. These bathrooms were based on how Berabin remembers them. There were no images to base them off. I wasn't able to get this telephone working. When it rings, you can press use on it and it will play a sound clip from one of those old G.I. Joe parodies from the early days of YouTube. We will leave this door for later. Now, for the main floor. The detail here is amazing. All these statues, paintings, and other various pieces have clearly been painstakingly recreated from photos of the original club. In the middle is a replica of the Artemisan bronze statue with a fishing rod. This is sometimes called Zeus Goes Fishing or God with Rod. This is Colonel Critchlow's Sunchbench. He's the club's glee master. He would induct new members into the club and converse with the patrons. Pressing use on this thing down here makes him talk. This is the Yakus. It's part yak and part moose, made out of an armchair? Looking at some footage from the club, it looks like it could also talk. As far as I can tell, it's silent in this map, but it will move around every now and then. The treasure room has a collection of various knicks and knacks. This steamboat is a reference to Right Guardian, who Berabin used a lot of footage from for these references. There's an interesting cabinet at the back that's supposed to have a genie inside of it. But Berabin didn't get around to adding him, so he just made this neat looking starfield effect instead. This big stone mask is called Babylonia, the goddess of woman and all things fertile. She would sometimes speak to the guests as well. Pushing this button behind the bar makes her breathe out mist and talk.
Cha cha cha, ha ha, cha cha cha, ha ha, cha cha cha, ha ha, cha cha cha, ha ha.
This mask room is filled with masks from all over around the world. Some of them would move their eyes and mouths. Near the entrance are two masks called Arnie and Claude.
Hello everybody, you're gonna die.
Hiya folks.
They're based off Bacchanalian masks, I believe. Now, let's look at the library. If you look at the shelves, you'll notice there are a few books that stand out. Pressing use on them has various effects on the room. Climbing up to the ladder takes us to the balcony above the stage. You can fall through this hole in the floor here. If you investigate the organ, it starts playing music. Behind the stage is a room with pictures of the original Adventurers Club. In the next room is a wall full of people who helped out with this map. This door will take you back outside. Now, let's check out this door I skipped at the start. It takes you to a back room that links up to the bar on the main floor. Behind is a safe door you can open to reveal a minecart and a passage. Riding the cart will take you to this temple area. In the walls are spikes that will fire out if you step on the strips on the floor. There's a gold statue here, but nothing really happens as far as I can tell. Up the stairs is a large empty room with a rope and a hole leading outside. And outside is the pyramid. If there is one complaint I have about this map, it's very dark. There's nothing too interesting outside. I guess you could use this part of the map as a build area. So that was GM Adventurers, a really interesting use of video game mapping for archival purposes. I don't think there's been many other Source Engine maps that have been made with a similar purpose. I seem to remember a museum map being based off a real museum, but that's about it. Once again, I apologise to any diehard Disney fans if I missed anything major. I'd also like to thank Berabin for answering my questions about their maps.